Well, hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Rosa Jones with Freedom Support Services. And in this episode, we are answering the question, what is freedom? So I am so delighted to have this conversation today with a member of my team. She's actually going to interview me. And this is the month of July. And so we are really ecstatic to be having this conversation about freedom and what it means to us. And I hope you're also thinking about what it means to you. Because here's the thing, freedom is not free. It costs each and every one of us something. And so that's what we're going to get into today. I want to encourage you to make sure that you're following us on Instagram at myfreedom_SS and on Facebook at myfreedomSS, and then also on YouTube at Healed People. All right, so make sure that you do that. You're following us, like this video, and share this video. And so we today are just so delighted to have joining us Pragya. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today.
Yes, and Pragya is a mental health counselor with Freedom Support Services. And I think just an amazing person to have this conversation with about freedom on today. So, Pragya, it's all yours.
Yes, I'm really excited to interview you. I think this is such a wonderful change. So, yeah, let's get started. So, I know you had made an Instagram post about why you decided to go into counseling a little while ago. Loved it. I feel like it just really spoke as to why, a lot of us do go into this counseling field and that calling. But I wanted to start this conversation off with, just asking you to share about why you wanted to go into private practice.
Oh, that is such a great question. So, for me, the decision to go into private practice, I think, has a lot of things that surround it. I started out in higher education and student affairs. That's where I started my career and love that. It's very counseling adjacent, serving students through the Dean of Students office, emergency response, working with students and families. And so it was very counseling ish, right? But I always knew that I wanted to practice therapy and I always knew that I wanted to have a private practice. And I'm going to tell you, the biggest reason for private practice for me is because I'm an entrepreneur at heart.
Mhm.
And so I love the opportunity to work in schools and community mental health agencies and for profit companies. But I think the reality for me is that, as a person with an entrepreneurial spirit, I knew that I would never truly be satisfied in my career until I worked for myself.
Right.
That I really would never be satisfied until I was able to provide services in a way
Mhm.
that I feel people need to receive them. I would not be satisfied until I got to be a part of a team who created an environment for therapists to be respected, not just in the way that they're treated, but in the way that they earn money, that they get the recognition that they want and need, and the support because they deserve that. And so I just knew I would never be satisfied with anything less than that. And me having that type of satisfaction made me clearly aware that I was going to have to build something myself with my own hands.
I love that. And you know what? That is really what has come into fruition. I can say that being a part of this team and, just being able to work, with you and also under you, and also just be surrounded by all of these wonderful colleagues that, take care of each other.
We really do.
Yeah. So let's get into, how did the name Freedom Support Services come up for you?
Wow, I think that, was a really fun one. Anytime that you're building a business, and this isn't my first business, you do go through this process of really trying to put words to what it is that you're building and your why and your vision and your mission and all of those things. And I'm a very spiritual person. And so, like, my relationship with God is so important to me. And the many experiences that I have along the way in life journey. And I'm sure that other people can resonate with this. There are just times and seasons where things happen. You may have like experiences. It may be an interaction with one person. It could be a conversation. It could be a number of things, maybe a drawing that you saw or a sunset, but something that you read, but there's something that happens that inspires you and it just shifts something on the inside of you. And I remember it was actually my senior year in college. I was just starting the semester and I had been like a resident advisor for pretty much my entire college career except for the first year because you can't do it your first year. And
Yeah.
so, that was something that was really special to me. Again, very counselor-ish.
Mhm.
And I was my last year as a human service counseling major was signed up for an internship. Um, that was on campus because I still wanted to do the RA thing and get my hours in. And it's a lot to juggle,
Yeah.
And so I was like, but I'm going to do this. This is great. And I think I had been back on campus for 1 week. And the year before, I actually started a new program and student organization for college women, like young women, like who were my age, just, really focused around empowerment. And it took off. I mean, it took off in a crazy way. We ended up like doing some amazing things. There was a major company that gave us like a $25,000 donation to host a conference on. It was just crazy.
Mhm.
So it's interesting. When I started the fall semester, I got called into someone's office. It was an administrator that I had worked really closely with in putting the organization together. And she said, I just want you to know about an opportunity that we have that has opened up. We have funding to hire someone to work full time in our office this fall. And given everything that you did last year was incredible. Like I can't think of anybody else other than you. She's like, but the person's really supposed to have a bachelor's degree, at a minimum, and you're still in school. But I have talked to the provost and she wants to talk with you because she told me that she would consider you, alongside some applicants. And I was like, okay. Right. And then she's like, well, that would mean tomorrow you could come in
Mhm.
and you would interview with her. Like this is our provost. I was like, okay, very nervous. And I just remember being like super excited about it because if I took it, I could do my internship and I could get paid like a real salary, which was crazy for
Mhm.
somebody my age at that time. And I was so nervous and really freaking out. And I remember going over to one of my friends' house and he wasn't home yet. So I was like, I'm just going to stay here because he was a person I always talk to for advice. I'm going to wait and talk to him when he gets back and he'll give me some pointers. And I was sitting in his living room and I was thinking, maybe I should like pray. And I
Mhm.
started to pray
Mhm.
and just having really this quiet moment. And I just really felt like myself. It's almost like I'm not lying to you. It's almost like I went into a trance.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
like I literally could not move. And
Mhm.
I, for the first time in my life, I heard God speak to me.
Wow.
And what he said to me, he was speaking to me about a lot of different things.
Mhm.
And he said to me, and it was one of the scriptures that talks about how he has like empowered the men and women of God to set captives free, right? To
Mhm.
help break change and help people move into freedom into their life. And it was just as clear as day. And then I started seeing a vision of myself in the office with the woman talking to her. And
Wow.
I heard all of the questions that she was going to ask me.
Wow. That
The
is so powerful.
It was crazy. The next day I went to the interview and she asked me all of the questions that I saw and heard in my vision.
That is amazing. Wow.
Right? And I will never forget that. And
Yeah.
so for me, that encounter that I had made it very clear to me that the purpose of whatever it is that I'm here to do is really about the liberation of people.
Mhm.
And for me, the liberation of people has nothing to do with what people believe, whether they're like Christian or Buddhist or Hindu or whatever. No,
Wow.
it's about liberation for all people. And so it's funny, right? Because I really embodied and embraced freedom
Mhm.
as like a word for me after that experience. And so when this time and this moment came for
Mhm.
me to build this company, and I began to thinking about names and what it is that I should call it, that immediately came back to me. I
Yeah.
mean, I've had other companies and I've given them names,
Mhm.
but I knew that this was the time and this was the season and the right endeavor for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You felt connected to it in your soul.
I really did. Yeah.
Oh, I love that story. That's so wonderful. Lovely. So, what does then freedom mean to you? Now that we kind of put it into perspective
Oh
and name.
man. Wow. I love the word and I love the question. And I think, for me at the core, freedom is really a mindset
Mhm.
and it's a choice,
Yeah.
right? Freedom. There are people who are behind bars.
Mhm.
They haven't seen the light of day
Mhm.
in years. They're disconnected from their family, their loved ones, and all of the things that matter to them,
Right.
right? But there are people who are in that situation, and even though physically they're not free, they still have freedom in their hearts so
Mhm.
that because of that, they can have the right attitude.
Right.
They can still have perspective,
Mhm.
about things and situations. They're still eager to learn and grow despite their circumstances,
Mhm.
right? And then there are those of us who we're not in prison.
Mhm.
We walk around in the world each and every day. We have money, we have resources, we have our health, we have access to all the things,
Mhm.
but we're still in bondage.
Yeah. Freedom is a choice, right?
Right. We allow our emotions to completely control us and to dictate our circumstances.
Yes.
We don't have hope for the future.
Mhm.
We have very limited perspective about situations. So we stay bogged down with anxiety,
Mhm.
fear, and worry, lots of depression. I don't think people need to be incarcerated to be free or anything like that.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
do believe that it's a choice.
It is. It
That it's
is.
a choice. I think freedom is really about making the deliberate choice to pursue, desire, and expect the best.
Mhm.
And not only that, but when that doesn't happen, it doesn't stop you from fully living. I
Mm.
think freedom, a lot of it is not being a slave to your circumstances,
Yes.
not being a slave to fear,
Mhm.
right? So we can live fully.
Mhm.
I think freedom is about being able to be your authentic self, not role playing everywhere and pretending.
Mhm.
Because there are a lot of people who do that out of necessity. They show up and they're who they need to be for other people and not who they really are.
Yes, and I love that you brought up that idea of authenticity associated with freedom. I talk about that with a lot of my clients for that reason because when you are being authentic, you are showing up authentic. What you're actually doing is you're giving yourself the decision and the choice to be free, to practice freedom within your own life.
Yeah. And that's a gift. So maybe freedom is a discipline.
Mhm.
If it's an exercise,
Yes. Yeah.
it's not just something that is given to you, it's something that you take, that you
Yes.
possess, and that you embody.
Absolutely. I love that. That's wonderful. And so when we kind of put, the idea of like freedom into like the perspective of even just professionals, right? And just like the things that we experience, how do you think we practice freedom as a community of professionals, but also just as individuals in that field, if that makes sense?
That is a really great question. And I had not thought a lot about that. But I think there are a number of ways that we can do that. I think on an individual level, as a professional, one of the things that helps us to be free is to, I think, think about your work
Mm-hmm.
as an important part of your life, right? The truth about work is that most of us, we're going to spend more time at work
Mm-hmm.
and like in our workplace and with the people that we work, more time there than we do with our family members,
Right.
with our, whether it be your kid or your partner or your dog or your,
Yeah.
or your friends. You're going to spend so much more of your time and energy centered around work. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think one of the ways that we can maintain our freedom is to be quite selective
Right.
about where we choose to spend our lives.
Right. Right.
That's a big one, right? Because this life is not a dress rehearsal. You're
No.
not going, nobody gets to like do it this way again.
Yeah.
And so if you know that, you should be, I think that we all should be as professionals very protective
Mm-hmm.
and quite selective about where we choose to spend our lives. I
So
choose
freedom.
not to spend my life in an environment where there is no cultivation of like dignity and respect for other people. That's disgusting.
Right. So freedom is associated with active decision-making skills as well.
It is, right? I also think freedom is like choosing to say yes to being a part of a community.
Mm-hmm.
Being in a place in your own life where you are willing to make investments socially, personally, professionally,
Mm-hmm.
in your workspace, right? And you were talking, Pragya, about like our work culture and our environment. Nowhere is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But this because you help us hire people. We
Yes.
literally look for people who want to belong and be a part of something,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
right? Like
You're putting down roots in a way.
you are, right? And it's not about like whether or not you're going to be there forever, but it's about the fact that you are spending so much of your life in
Mm-hmm.
this space. Get into it. Like show up, be yourself and make a contribution in some way, And you do such a great job of that. I'm just going to like brag on you for a second. I mean, you're that girl
Oh.
who is always willing to help other people. You're the one who has a word of encouragement, who offers support, who is open and friendly and welcoming. And it makes all the difference. But that is because you choose
Mm-hmm.
to be open and turn towards people.
Yeah. Yes. And I think, the biggest thing when I was even in my grad school program, right? 2 years go by in a flash, right? And, I was so thankful that I got to do my internship, at Freedom Support Services. But before I even came across, the company, I know that the biggest thing for me was what are the main themes I constantly want in a workplace? When I wake up, what am I looking for that's associated with that? And a big thing always came up was freedom to be yourself, that authenticity, right? How you choose to work with people, right? Is it bringing out the best qualities in you?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes that gets lost in the mix with, the craziness of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. But I think those are some of the ways that we maintain our freedom and we kind of can cultivate that in the work environment, having open communication,
Mhm.
positive communication,
Yes.
doing our best to try to turn towards people as opposed to being turned away. Now, in most workplaces, there are some people who, might need to watch out, right? But like family is no different.
Mm-hmm. Yep. My mom always says there's good and bad people everywhere. It's just who you
Absolutely.
want to be mixed with.
Absolutely. So yeah, making that choice to like actually like invest in the cultivation of a community.
Right. So, how do you think we practice freedom as a company?
Wow, I think for us, there are so many ways. One of the things that I love and I take so much joy in is really being a space where we can help to bring out the best in counselors, not just professionally, but also personally. And so one of the beliefs that I have and something that I live by and that I lead by is that everyone is different.
Mhm.
And so we want to curate the experience for counselors, and not just counselors, but our employees as well, um, as much as possible. If it is within the realms of what's healthy and sustainable for our culture, and
Yeah.
also legally
Okay.
appropriate, we're open to it,
Yeah.
right? Because everybody's different and everyone brings value to the table. And everybody doesn't have to be as productive as Praga. She's real productive, y'all. To have value and to be valued in this space, right? We all bring beautiful things to the table. And not only that, we all need different things. And so,
Yeah.
freedom to me is really about not just people showing up and taking up space and being their authentic selves, but me as a leader and the leadership team
Mhm.
doing the best that we can to anticipate the needs of our employees and also working with them to to know them well enough that we understand what they need.
Right.
And when people are struggling or they're
Mhm.
in transition, doing everything that we can within our limits to show up and be of help and be of service, because the reality of it is that everybody's going to struggle at some point,
Mhm.
right? And
Abs
so it's like, how the question isn't like, our first question is like, oh my gosh, they're so horrible, they're falling apart, they're not meeting expectation. It's like something must be going on. Maybe I
Right.
should lean in and ask some questions and see if there's anything within my resources that we
Mhm.
can provide to try to help folks.
Yeah. And I really like how you said that because we all do have our own frustrations that come up as we are growing, right? So we grow as professionals, we grow as individuals in that workplace environment that we then take and kind of use to create our identity.
Absolutely, right? And so we do some things across the board, like everybody creates their own schedule, right? And people are like, when they come to work,
We do.
but I think that's a huge thing. I think for, people who serve other people so intensely, like counselors and teachers and
Mhm.
nurses, it's like, it takes your whole life to do this work. It takes so much from you. And there are a lot of things that you can't control. And so my philosophy is like, what is it that you all can control that I
Mm.
don't have to? What balls can I put in your court and empower you to make some decisions that are going to support you in living your life by design? And
Mhm.
so, and that schedule thing is huge, right?
It is. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And I kind of saw the joys and the benefits of being able to create your own schedule, right? Just because there are things that happen in our own personal lives. There are things that, you want to dedicate your time towards. So being able to have control of your own time, but also practice time management and organization gives you so much liberty.
It does, right? And and having that kind of flexibility sometimes can empower people to tap into that. Even for people who struggle with it, it can be like, well, actually, if I can get a handle on this, maybe things would feel better or look better for me, right? Or maybe in this season, this will work better. And then I've got the freedom to switch it up at some other times.
Mhm.
And then I also think, in regards to freedom, is really trying our best to hone in into what people's needs are. What are their professional goals and dreams and aspirations?
Mhm.
And then, even personally, are there things personally that they're striving towards that they want to accomplish? And really having open conversations about that so that if people are willing to share, we have an awareness. And
Mhm.
as we journey along the way, we can offer opportunities as appropriate to support people in their growth. That's a part of freedom, right? Because, and I say this to people all the time, like, I love our team and I love the people who work with us. However, I know that not every single person is going to be there for the rest of their life, right? Like, people have a purpose, I believe, and a calling in the world. And the best thing that you can do is work to fulfill that.
Yeah.
Freedom Support Services can just be a part of the story in a time and the journey in the time and the season. And
Mhm.
so it's like really, I think, important for us as leaders to like not to like make assumptions or be too possessive of people,
Yes.
right? Like my life is mine and
Mhm.
I'm going to do whatever I feel like I'm called to do in my life.
Mhm.
And I want that for everybody else too.
Right.
Right. So, and that's crazy. I think one of the things that I really have always been disgusted by in the educational field, in human services, in the healthcare field, and maybe some of you all who work in other fields, I don't know, is this a thing in your field too? Where people they almost act as if they own you.
Mhm. Right. They're in charge of everything, including your time, work-life
Yes.
balance. The list goes on.
No respect for
Mhm.
your time,
Yeah.
for your energy. And not just that, but it's like not just to me, a lack of respect is also a lack of care and investment in who you are as a person.
Right.
Like, I just think that's so degrading. And
Mhm.
so, my hope is the way that we serve our employee takes them takes them above and beyond their time with us, but it's their tools and skills and things that they own to use in their life.
Mhm.
And
Right.
that's my responsibility.
Mhm.
Like that's about equipping people for their life, not just to work at a company.
Right. So
Like
it's not
to me, that's just
short-term success.
weird.
Yeah. It's not short-term success, it's long-term
No,
success.
no. And if you have the audacity to show up and work hard every day
Mhm.
and help people improve their lives, I should have an audacity to care about who you are as a person and where you'd like to go in this life
Yes.
and not
Right.
hold back in making contributions that help prepare you for that.
I think that's a huge thing, and I think it just shows your perspective and beliefs as a business owner, and just as, being able to manage such a successful company because it makes people feel valued. It makes people feel cared for on a daily basis, not just quarterly or once a while. It's
Period.
consistent.
And the truth is, though that feeling was all I ever wanted or I ever desired in the workplace, but
Mhm.
those experiences for me, unfortunately, were far and few between, which is
Mhm.
why freedom to me was like, nope, gotta create it for myself and others.
Yes, I love that. So, kind of going off of that, how do you think we can encourage people to practice freedom on a more
Mm,
consistent basis? And I think, personally, of course, but also professionally, because there's going to be times where you're faced with resistance of, people who are not as familiar with the idea of freedom.
yeah. I think that one of the biggest things that we can do to have impact in that area is to practice self leadership. Okay.
Ooh.
And so when I say self-leadership, what I mean is that in the same way we think about leading others and being in a role or position of power, authority, or influence, in your own life, you are a leader.
Mhm.
And if you're not leading in your own life, you should be, right? And the reality of it is that most of the freedom that is available to you in your life is going to be a byproduct of your willingness and your ability to stand up and lead yourself in the ways that you should. Because when we choose not to do that, we choose to imprison ourselves.
Mhm.
We choose to limit ourselves. We choose oftentimes to allow other people and circumstances and situations to just, take the wheel in our lives. And what happens, happens. You will never be free just leaving life up to luck and chance. No, you got to stand up in your own life and take ownership. And to me, I believe that's a major ticket to freedom.
I love that. So, where do you see kind of FSS headed in the next few years with this idea of freedom? Because it is something really that I feel like the company embodies, as well as those that work for FSS.
Yes, I think that's a really good question, and it's something that I have I am spending quite a bit of time thinking about these days. The thing that's so unique about mental health and the landscape is changed so drastically, in the last 5 years or so. And so, currently we're located in one region of Virginia, but we certainly serve all over the state. I think for me, I would like to see more physical locations.
Mhm.
Because I think it's really easy to provide a bunch of telehealth everywhere. But let's be honest, there is something very special about opportunities to be seen and treated face to face with providers. And
Abs-
while it is more expensive and a lot more challenging sometimes to manage, it's something that I believe firmly in. And so I really can see, the future really being a space where we have more in person opportunities that are beyond Virginia. I think that there are probably some spaces where, and some communities additionally in Virginia, and then other places across the country that we really belong in
Mhm.
and that need what we have to offer. And so I'm open and the sky's the limit. you
I
know, we really at Freedom Support Services, we help human service and healthcare professionals live their best lives, right? And so
Mhm.
our vision is to heal people who heal the world. And to me, who better to serve than the healers and the helpers?
I love that, Rosa. And, your idea of freedom and how you choose to practice it in your own life, but also how you came across the idea of it years ago. It's so
Yes.
inspiring and just so wonderful to hear because not a lot of people, I think, take time to think about these words and, the theme that they play in our lives and where they really come from.
Yeah, but it is freedom is a word that like makes me leap. Like I love that word. I love everything about it. I love to see what happens in people's lives when they heal and when they grow. Oh, they
Mhm.
become so much more free.
They
They
do.
become so liberated, right?
They do. Absolutely. I had a little bit of a challenge for our viewers,
Okay.
to do in their own time. But I think it's always so powerful to write down that theme word as an umbrella word on a piece of paper and then to see how your life and how you embody that word in this space and time that you're currently in. And so I encourage our viewers to do that. Just take a random piece of paper, write down freedom at the top, whether I don't care if it's slanted, messy, it doesn't matter, but go ahead and write down those words that then come after freedom for you. How does freedom show up in your life? How are you showing up as someone who is free in your life? And just see, what the results are out of it.
I love that. That you were such a counselor.
I know, it's like I do that for a living or something.
Oh, I know. And you just can't resist because I think sometimes, like even in therapy, when you're having conversations with people, and I could see that just happen to you, like you get these ideas to like, what is something that a person could do to
Yes,
like help them better explore this concept,
yes.
that we're talking about to make it more applicable to their lives. Because they're sitting here listening to me go on and on and on, right? But what does it mean for you and your life?
Mhm. Well, and I think they have your example of what it looks like to truly meditate on the idea, to truly sit and think on the idea and see what it brings to life for you.
Yes.
And so they can't do that until they do that themselves now, can they?
Come on, Cracker. Got bars.
Yes. But I really appreciate you sharing all of your ideas about freedom and just, how it even just shows up in this wonderful company that I'm just so thankful to be a part of.
We are so blessed to have you. And thank you so much for, yeah, asking the questions, and just allowing us to share a little bit of that with others. Thank you so much, Pragya.
Thank you, Rosa.
And thank each and every one of you for listening. listen, again, you want to make sure that you get signed up for our newsletter. You can do that by visiting our website at www.myfreedomss.com. Make sure that you're following us on all social media platforms so that you don't miss a thing. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.